All right, so let's talk a little bit about location and location selection. I've picked this area right here because I have a spot where a tongue spills over into a wide eddy. What that means is the stuff that's floating downriver is going to spill over and kind of mill around here, so there should be a higher probability of fish and birds. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is as you can see where I'm at in the eddy right now, I've got my indicator. You can see it's floating upstream. So that lets me know there's an upstream current right here, and I can see the eddy line in front of me with the downstream current right there. So right here in between where the two mix is kind of the area that I want to fish. My concern that I have to watch out for is logs and stuff. You may not be able to see one, but I can see one here in front of me underneath. I also don't want to step off into a deep hole, so I will kind of feel my way out. Now, as far as lure selection, I have a small fish because this time of year, there's a lot of little spawning and there's a lot of baby fish running around in the river. So sometimes it behooves you to replicate those baby fish that you'll see along the side of the bank. If you go to an area and you see baby fish on the bank, fish with the baby fish replica. If you see rock rollers or some sort of crawdads or even a mouse, replicate what you're seeing in the river by putting that on the end of your line. If you see a lot of sparrows coming down and a lot of fish rising, so they're jumping up out of the water, or I can see bugs right here floating on top. If you see a lot of bugs floating on top, more than just these 4 or 5, then you know the fish are going to come up and grab it. Also, fish like to rise in the early mornings and the late evenings. They don't do so much in the middle of the day. So in the middle of the day, you might want to get something that's flashy, because if they're in a territorial season, they will attack it just because it's flashy. Or you might want to get something that swims past them that they attack, because they may not be in the mood to rise up and grab things. All right, so let's talk a little bit about casting. Casting in a perfect world with no wind and no current just looks like this, back and forth. Essentially, you're going to cast at 10 and 2. The concern is that you don't make a big arc that flops your line in and out of the water. And the other concern is that you don't whip it back into some trees. So when it comes to casting in an area like this where I don't have a lot of backspace, so I can't throw it a long way forward, what I'm going to try to do is use the downstream current and the upstream current and to roll cast. The way a roll cast works is I'll pull it up and then roll it over, kind of like you're flipping a rope over the top, okay? And that's going to give me some downstream floating. Now, if I want to get further out, I might use the tension of this upstream eddy and then cast in that direction. Or if I want to come over here, I'll just get it behind me by pulling a little pile of string behind me, okay? And then I'll get it up in the air. Once it's in the air, that 10 and 2 that I just talked about needs to move in a straight line, okay? If it's not gonna move in a straight line, then it starts throwing it. What you want you to do is have your line travel above you in a flat line until you get out is all the line that you want, and then you're gonna cast it out and let it drop. So see if I can do some of this. So if we start coming in a more straight line and I'm just slowly feeding it, okay, until I can launch it out kind of into that eddy. I've got some conflicting currents where the one I landed in is going to my right, the one that my string in is going to my left. That's okay, because that fish is going to land and it's going to go like this. It's going to turn around and it's going to come back, and that's going to mimic kind of a fish swimming around in an eddy, right? So I've got a baby fish that'll swim around in an eddy. Now if I want to launch this out further, I can, but my concern right now is my back cast. I've got a wind that's hitting me from this direction, so I want to kind of push it into the wind so that it lands over there, and I've got this tree behind me. So my cast has to work into the wind and with the back cast and no tree. So let's see if we can get that over here and try that out. And build my pile. I'm gonna get my string up out of the air, kind of feeding it, and I wait a couple seconds before I pull, so it's 1 1,000, 1 1,000. It's eaten up all my string, 1 1,000. That's the remainder of my string, and now I've dropped it in the downstream current. Okay, so it's going to be floated on top. When you've eaten up your string pile, set it out and don't whip it. If you don't pause on that 1 1,000, what's going to happen is your pole is going to be moving forward while your string is moving backwards, and your hook's going to go snap and fly off and fall into the ground.